Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.
Are you ready to fake your finale? So are we. Welcome back to Shit 90 Shows Taught Me. I'm Jess Sterling here with my co-host, Sarah Humphrey. Sarah, how are you?
Jess, I was just going to say that I can't believe we've gone through an entire another show, this being like our third or fourth. It's been so many ups and downs, but it's nice that, the finale has finale'd. It's final. Especially since we've been complaining so much. So it's nice that
nothing will change.
Nice that we don't have 5 more episodes to cover.
Yes, we definitely don't have more episodes to cover of the show. This is the end.
Yeah.
But of course, we're not alone. We are joined by someone who I gotta imagine was like, what the heck is going on in the final 5 minutes of this episode? Emily, how are you?
You are quite right about that. I'm offering both of you and the rest of the listeners a knock of defiance, which has also become known as a fist bump in the time since Felicity has recorded.
Is that so embarrassing?
What it was, they didn't even have a name for the
They
fist
called
bump.
it a knock of defiance. Yeah, it was very strange.
And later they called it banging fists.
So embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
It was so cringe.
Yeah, so we're talking about season 4, episode 17, The Graduate, also known as the original Felicity finale. From what I understand, and I'm sure we've got some feedback from our more fanatic listeners who like really loved the show when it was on. I believe that originally this was supposed to be the finale, and then it was the network that ordered 5 more episodes because they needed like time to fill or something. So they're like, hey, drum us up another 5. And so that's why it feels very strange, because this episode feels like a series finale. It feels like this is where the show should end. We'll get into whether or not we think it was a good ending, but I don't understand. Sarah, I think it would be fun if at the end of the podcast, after we talk through all the stuff that happens this time, if we make some predictions for like how they're going to do an extra 5 episodes, because I have some thoughts on what I think they're going to do.
Yeah.
But let's first talk about The Graduate. I want to start with Felicity and Ben because they're kind of like we're following them for a lot of this story. We are like, I feel like this season specifically is so loosey-goosey with our timeline. Like, I'm never quite sure when we start an episode how far into the future we're going to be. Because, Emily, last episode, Ben was in the hospital. Like, he was, like, near death, okay? He lost so much blood that he almost died. And then we start this episode, and he's out of the hospital. Like, and he's perfectly fine. And it's like, how many months have we, how long has it been? You know, it's very jarring.
Besides having just, a mark on his face, which is really the only reminder that in the previous episode, he was bedridden in the hospital, we have the Ben stuff going on. But the thing that screws with my brain the most is the pregnancy storyline, where was Lauren really just like about to pop in the last episode? And now
she was like 6 or 7 months. So I suppose we're like 2 months, 3 months into the future. But I don't know if that lines up with our graduation timeline. I guess so.
Right.
Well, I'm thinking if she told Ben she was pregnant around Halloween or Thanksgiving, I suppose the maths. And she would pop around graduation time. Maybe she went a little early or something.
Right. And we also have this plagiarism storyline. So if we're taking that, 2 or 3 months ago is the last time we really saw them, and that's when Felicity got caught with plagiarizing her paper, then she didn't know until today that, she had failed that paper. But I guess then, was going to pass the class, I guess. I don't know. So I vividly remember my last couple months of college because I had a list of everything I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to spend as much time with my friends as possible. And that is honestly the part of college that I remember the most. So to kind of like skip over that, what is such an odd decision.
I agree. I feel like we've definitely yada yada'd this finale. I feel as though we missed an episode in between our last episode and this episode, and that penultimate episode, a proper penultimate episode, could have been spending time with our side characters, for lack of a better word, titular. I think that's what the word is, but like I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Titular is Felicity because she's the title name.
I thought, no, what's the one about our like
secondary and tertiary?
Tertiary, that's the word. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I feel like I especially dislike how we spent the last 5 minutes of this episode, because that's where it felt the most yada yada, where it was just like,
yes,
and Elena did this, and Javier did that, and it's just like, well, that could have been. I understand that we need to spend the majority of our finale sorting out the Ben and Felicity stuff, because at least in this, if we use this as like the finale, like this was the Ben and Felicity story. And it has been for the most part, and I feel like it does make sense to spend the finale focusing purely on Ben and Felicity. And if that's the case, then we needed a penultimate episode where we spent time with all the side characters that we had, and then and then it wouldn't have felt as yada yada to have that like recap where Felicity's like writing to Ben or whatever she's doing and being like, yeah, like this is what they're up to in the last like couple of months since graduating college. And I feel as though it felt extremely rushed, which is so stupid, because this whole entire season felt extremely slow. Like they were trying to fill in time, so then they filled it in with a bunch of fucking fluff instead of like actually taking care of these characters that we've been getting to know for the last 3 seasons. It is really mind-boggling to waste so much time, but then have not enough time to actually give like service to these people that we have learned to care about.
Yeah, it really, we'll get into it, because I was annoyed, like to be nice about it, about the Elena and what Elena and Meghan were given as compared to some of the other characters. But yeah, this timeline is what really throws me off, because you're right, Sarah, like this whole season has been very much a slog, and then at the very end it just feels like we're pressing the fast forward button on everything. Like we're jumping in time twice in one episode. Like it's kind of crazy. But to stay with Felicity and Ben, right? Like he's out of the hospital, they're laying in bed together, they're like talking about graduation is coming up. We are totally yada yadaing the plagiarizing storyline, which is also crazy to me, because I mean, I made a big stink on the podcast of like, this is a serious thing. You can't plagiarize and then just be like, okay, I'm still going to graduate. Like, I don't know, Emily, it did not work for me that, okay, she just fails the paper, but not the class, and no repercussions whatsoever. Like no going to the dean, no nothing. Like she doesn't even have to go in front of like, anyone to be like, this is why I did it. And there's no slap on the wrist even. This is insane.
Yeah, so I sit on my campus's academic integrity committee. So we review cases just like this. Now, generally not if it's a first offense, in which case, a lot of the time the instructor has, almost full ability to kind of give the consequence that they want up to a certain point, or if the student contests the decision. So I'm trying to remember, Felicity has not had a previous cheating or plagiarism that was other characters.
Not that specifically, I don't think.
Okay, so these are Felicity's crimes, some of which she has not gotten caught for. When she worked in the admissions office, she stole or borrowed,
she read
or reviewed
file, right?
applications. Yes. That should be of an offense. What she really got in trouble for the most is sneaking into the pool.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, getting in trouble for that.
She also never really got in trouble for rewriting Ben's paper.
Yes.
But like that feels like the worst offense in terms of, or I guess the most related offense to this one. But that was all on Ben.
Adjacent. But like, but also I'm sure, Emily, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you do take into consideration, if you're on the board, other like behavioral instances. Like
we don't look at like the behavioral stuff, but there is someone else who does do that, who we turn our recommendation into is only looking at past academic integrity violations. So I mean, if Felicity got in trouble, which I don't think she did administratively for the Ben situation with rewriting his paper, but you know, if this was a second offense for her, she probably, where I work, that would have been probably a failure of the course, if not worse. You know, and it's hard, but students will come back and they'll say, you know, I was so stressed. I didn't manage my time well, if they admit to even doing it, and kind of ask for mercy. But, you know, Felicity knows better. We have seen enough of these storylines throughout this show that by the time this came up, it felt so tired already. It also feels like, what growth has Felicity had over these past 4 years that she's making this decision? So I was very upset with basically just waving this away. Yes, she failed the paper, but we also don't know. Does that mean it was an F or a 0? Because there is a big difference there.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Right. So if it,
what's the difference between an F and a 0?
Well, like, because an F could be like a 50 or something,
or a 59,
whereas a 0 is a full-on 0, which like your grade point average totally changes.
Then like, let me just reference the time in high school where I got all Fs for 3 semesters of Spanish, and then I got an A my final marking period of Spanish. So then my average equaled out to a C. And I believe like that's probably what happened for Felicity. She probably got like all A's and everything else, and then got like an F or a 0.
Well, she didn't even fail the class. Like, she just failed the paper is what she said.
Well, no, I know, but that's
which is even crazy.
It doesn't even matter, because like when you're in college, all you care about is the credits, right? So it's just like, as long as you like pass, like get a C or whatever the numerical equivalent is to a C, then it doesn't matter, because then you get the credits. It doesn't like, it's nobody's like checking your resume to see if you got like a C in art history or whatever the fuck this class was.
And it's just really annoying because it's it's the pacing. The pacing is so off, where like they wanted us to worry and spend this time on this plagiarizing storyline, only for then it to get resolved off screen within the first 2 minutes of the fake finale.
Ben's injury. Like, honestly, I don't understand the point of besides the fact that like it was fucked up and it was like a lot of drama to be like, Lauren, who was pregnant, drove drunk so badly that she got into a car accident and nearly killed Ben. That was huge drama. But then Lauren was just able to like up and leave the state. Like, how is
no
there
problems.
Not legal repercussions, Emily, for Lauren, because she endangered an unborn child. She endangered another person, as well as like all the surrounding people. She was driving drunk. Like, how in the fucking world would she just be like able to get up and leave the state of New York to go to Arizona?
It's a great question. So do we think like something happened where the producers were told you're only going to have 17 or 18 episodes, but they had already had these storylines planned and now they just couldn't essentially resolve them? I mean, is that what's going on here? Because we have 3 very strong storylines that had a lot of setup to them, where we have invested a lot of time in Lauren as a character, not just as Ben's baby mama, but also as someone who is very close to his dad through the AA program. And it's like we're throwing all of that away essentially in this finale. So we've spent so much time on these storylines for them all, well, we have the baby storyline that does come to something, but Lauren's gone this episode, never be seen again. So yeah, I just wonder if there was stuff going on behind the scenes where the producers and writers were like, oh, you have 1 episode to wrap these things up.
Yeah. I mean, I truly, we needed like, not that I wanted to cover more episodes of Felicity, but we needed like a penultimate episode in between the last episode and this one to tie up these things. And then like, I don't think I would have been coming in as like angry. I'm not angry. Like I'm not pressed. Like I have more things to worry about than an episode of Felicity, but like less pressed about this fake finale.
Well, because they dilly-dallied for 16 episodes and then they rushed the finale, the fake finale. Like they completely rushed it to the point where we are getting all of these things that we are getting in 1 episode. Feels like we could have had way more time leading up to them. So, right, within 1 scene, we have Ben is proposing, like Felicity says yes, unhinged, absolutely unhinged. Like, sure, maybe it was more common in the 90s, but like, if don't propose, I'm a child. I am a child bride. Like, what are you doing? Like, I know she's not a child, but like seriously, like 21 is a child nowadays. Like we all take a lot longer to become true full-fledged adults now.
I will say that we're coming from this as, I think, Emily, I don't know, are you Midwest or East Coast? Because East Coast, I agree with you. Like, I think that culturally is very uncommon for people to be engaged once they, like, before they leave school or whatever. However, I think I had like 1 friend that was engaged in school out of like all of the people that I knew in college. However, in the South and different regions, it's a lot more common, even to this day, to be engaged, to be married while you're in school.
Yeah, so I'm on the East Coast, definitely not Midwest, but I attended college in Indiana, which is the Midwest, and graduated in 2010. And so many people that I knew were graduating with their MRS degrees at that time, which, so that to say,
hilarious.
I did not see the proposal coming, if you can even call it that. I mean, I guess technically,
ring.
There's no ring.
It felt spur of the moment. Like, hey, let's just get married. And I'm not trying to say Ben is not Noel in all his like ulterior motives. I don't think he was like, well, if I propose and if she's my fiance, well, then she has to follow me to Arizona and I get what I want. I don't think he was thinking that.
I didn't think that either.
But I just don't think he was thinking.
Yes, this thought came to him as they were in bed together, and he's like, I'm having all these problems. And then, oh, what a great idea if Felicity and I got married, and then we'll be together forever, and clearly he's coming out of his insecurity of potentially losing her. But yeah, I agree. It wasn't like a manipulative tactic, I don't think, to force her to come with him to Arizona. But I still did not see this coming, but it makes so much sense when I think about it, that this is what these characters do. They, get married, very quickly and don't always tell anyone. And then, they're rushing these marriage decisions. So
it's just it is such a red flag, in my opinion, if to each their own in terms of engagements and all of that. I feel like personally, it's a red flag if you get engaged and then are afraid to tell people. Yeah. Like, if it's one thing, if you're like, we want this to be just us for a little bit and like live in that moment.
A day.
That's different. Like, if you're like, we just want it to be our little secret for like a week, that's a totally different thing than being like afraid to tell your parents, afraid to tell your friends. Like, if you have fear of their reaction, probably a red flag, and you maybe shouldn't be getting married. Again, teach their own. That's just like and I say this from as I have experienced 2 proposals, which I had vastly different reactions to. This is coming from like personal experience of my first proposal, not really wanting to tell anyone, and my second proposal, not being able to wait and calling everyone immediately. So it was very sudden. Felicity's surprised, but I think she, like, I felt at the time, I may have actually been the same age as Felicity when I got proposed to, of like, well, I love this person, so why wouldn't I say yes? That's kind of how it feels. And then Ben immediately having to leave. Apparently Lauren ends up in Philly. Who the hell knows why? But that's where she is. And probably because it's a bus ride away for Ben to get there. So that's where she ends up. And he has to go because she's in labor. And so he's going to go see the birth of his kid.
I have shit to complain about this as well, because he like picks up the phone. It's midnight. I think like he's talking to her sister or whatever, and is like, gets off the phone. And he's like, yeah, Lauren's going into labor. Like, I should go, right? And then Felicity's like, yeah, like, I think you should probably go.
It's
Why are you
your kid
if you're going to go? And then furthermore, you are engaged to Felicity. Theoretically, we are living in a world where Felicity is this child's stepmother. Why the fuck is Felicity not getting up to go either? This is your partner in life. This is a huge, probably the biggest moment of your life up into this moment, and you're not going to get up with your partner, your new fiance, and go. I understand that her parents were going to be there the next day for lunch, but I don't, and she like didn't explain to them, which is also whatever, but like, go, like, that's the part, that is the whole reason of having a partner in life, is to experience these things with. Am I like, this was crazy, right? For not only him to question if he should go, but her to not even offer to go.
It was crazy for two mature adults who have logical thinking skills. But for these 21-year-old babies who know nothing about the world, and this is something that some people will do that annoys me, is Ben needs Felicity to tell him what to do here and if he is in the right. And that's something that just annoys me so much. Make up your own mind. You have been with Lauren throughout this journey. You've been telling Felicity that you want to be, to some extent, part of this process. So just go. Why does she need to give you her permission?
Yeah. I'm totally with you. Just go. And also Felicity, like you're saying, Emily, if they are actual adults, like, that are seriously engaged and all of that, she should be going with him. She doesn't. He goes alone. He has a son. The baby's name is Andrew, after his father, which need I remind all of us is the same guy who kissed Felicity. That's who the baby is named
and like
after.
Physically beat Ben.
Oh yeah, like obviously this guy has a history, like not great. I mean, he's a recovering alcoholic, so at least he's like trending in the right direction, but still choices were made about naming this kid Andrew.
Which is also okay, never mind.
And then Ben comes back from this obviously feeling like a changed person, because obviously now he's a father. Like, and
the biggest event a person can have in their life, pretty much. I mean, like, there's a lot of big events, but like, I like, it is top 5 of probably a person's life. And if it's not, then that says something about a parent. But yeah, I like, of course he came back a changed person. And then Felicity is like feeling out of sorts about it a little bit because she wasn't there with him, because she didn't experience. I can't. I'm so bad. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, on the bright side, right? At least when Ben returns from his trip to Philly with the baby being born, he says, I can't imagine being away from this baby now. Now that I've met this baby, now that I realize like the gravity of the situation, I need to be in Arizona and I want you to move with me. Emily, of all the things that happen in this finale, this actually does make sense and actually like feels like a good decision, right? At least
for Ben or for Felicity?
For Ben, 1000%, not for Felicity.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, if he wants to be involved, then yes, he should go to Arizona. So he was looking into going to med school right over there, but I'm assuming the time ran out on that offer that his one professor suggested, right?
I assume so, because he was only going to have like a day, and
they didn't close the loop on it.
Yeah,
right.
No, we just leave that hanging thread out there. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, it's not like Arizona doesn't have universities that he couldn't attend for his medical schooling. So you can do that really anywhere in the US. So yeah, he can go out there, be with his baby, be with Lauren and see how that goes. But I don't think anybody between Ben and Felicity are really thinking about what this means for them. Well, maybe Felicity is, as we'll see by later conversations. But Ben is not really thinking about, he's thinking about himself. He's thinking about the baby, and hoping that Felicity will continue to be very, very understanding, as he puts it to her dad later.
Right. And so he invites her to move to Arizona with him. And this is a big decision for Felicity, right? Like whether she wants to stay in New York or move to Arizona. And meanwhile, Sarah, like she's having this lunch with her parents and her dad is being like a lot. I think there's a difference between asking the question of what are your plans after graduation? Like, what do you want to do? And basically berating her for making the decisions that she's making, especially when they've been on her ass about, well, what are you going to do with an art degree? What are your plans next? She says a very valid plan, which is I'm going to come back to New York and work at this architecture job, which is related to my field and is a stable job. And he's still not satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, I don't exactly know what he wanted from her. I guess he wants her to move back to Palo Alto so that he can have full control over her again, is probably what he was wishing and hoping for, which is not realistic as like having an adult child. And I mean, like the thing that he said, so why? Okay, so I'm just trying to remember, because at this point in time, because he said the words like, you have to stop following Ben Covington. Like, haven't you done it for the last 4 years? But at this point in time, Ben was staying in New York or was not staying in New York?
At this point in time, Ben was away with the baby. So he hadn't returned yet and made the decision. Yeah.
Okay, because then he got medical school or something in New York pre-baby. Right. Okay, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, so originally Ben was going to stay in New York, go to medical school. Lauren and the baby were moving to Arizona, and Felicity was coming back to New York to be with Ben, but also to take this architecture job.
Yeah, it's really hard to keep track because of like how wishy-washy Ben was. I'm like, wait, is he going to Arizona? He's not going to Arizona. I mean, it's one of those things where like the people that like know you the most or the closest to you could hurt you the most by the words that they say. Like the fact that like Felicity's dad said that was probably the most fucked thing that she's ever heard in her life. And like, I think back to, and as somebody has like a strained relationship with their mother over the years, like, there's some things that my mom has said to me that like ring in my head repeatedly. And I'm afraid that like that is going to be something that Felicity probably hears in her head up until her 30s, which is so unfortunate. But like, it's like I said, it's the people that are closest to you can hurt you the most. It sucks. And although it was a little true, it's really fucked. That's something that you keep in to yourself.
I also think, Emily, it's a little different if she didn't have the architecture job. Like, if she was just coming to New York and being like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to be with Ben. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Ben's wife. That's what I'm going to do. Like, I feel like that's a different thing than I love New York. All my friends are here. I've built a life here. And I want to pursue architecture. You know, there's a big difference. Like, I could understand his dad having problems with her moving to Arizona and being like, I don't know what I'm going to do in Arizona. I'm going to be with Ben in Arizona. But this is so different, her staying in New York. She already lives there.
Yeah. So we know that Felicity has this strained relationship with her dad. So she's probably not keeping him up to date with the rest of her life, with the friends that she has. Is he able to name any of her friends outside of Ben and maybe Noel? I don't know about that. he, clearly doesn't agree with her choice of major, getting the art degree and then wanting to go into this architecture field. But why it really hurts so much is because he is saying that he believes that her only value, that she sees in herself, is to be with Ben. And that is not what she's saying. She's saying, I have a full life. I have a job out here that is relevant for my major. I have all of these wonderful things going for me. And all you can see is Ben, and that he will be here too. But I think some of that is on Felicity, and not on Felicity. I think some of that is on the strain of their relationship and him not having an awareness of all these other things. But he's also saying it in bad faith. If he thought about it for 2 seconds, he would realize that it's probably not just Ben. There probably are these other things. She probably has friends. She probably has a good life out here. We see her grow to be this independent young woman, and he's not ready to recognize that that's what she's become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it only gets worse when he comes to see her and in the elevator bumps into Richard, who spills the beans about, oh, Ben just had a baby and who are you to the baby, and like he just rambles on for a while all about Ben's baby. And then which then is like, it causes all these other issues because Ben has to talk to Felicity's dad about the baby and about Arizona and about all this other stuff. Meanwhile, Felicity hasn't decided whether or not she's moving, which again is like, are you engaged to a person? It's like, the answer, it should not be there, Sarah. There should never be a, are we engaged or are we breaking up because of this move? That's unhinged. Like, yeah. I can't imagine, like, thinking back when I was engaged, to there ever being a moment where there's like, I'm going to move and either you're going to come with me or we're not engaged anymore. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think Emily said it best, where they're 21-year-old children. I think that like our 30-something-year-old brains can't process this, because I think that it's like, maybe you think, we're not that close. We're not that like, we're not ready to be engaged, but we still want to be together. And let's like, this is where the promise ring, the horrible promise ring comes in. This is where you go to your local Zales and get $130 heart ring, and you say, I promise to be loyal to you while we do our own things. I promise that we'll be reunited. I promise that one day we'll get engaged, but today is not that day. And then a year later realize that you don't want to make these promises and you throw that heart ring in the trash. But that's what they should be doing, honestly. It doesn't have to be as black and white, but I don't know. When's the frontal lobe fully developed? 25? Is that what?
25.
Yeah, they're not there yet.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, should not be making engagement decisions prior to that. But then, so Felicity is really going through it, trying to decide what she wants to do. Does she want to move to Arizona with Ben? Does she want to stay in New York? And throughout this time, right, she's having these little conversations with Noel because, as we've established, Noel is like her BFF because Elena and Meghan have dropped off the face of the planet. And so Noel is the first one she tells that she's engaged. Again, like, I was pretty shocked, and maybe we'll get this in the other remaining 5 episodes. I was pretty shocked we didn't get a more love triangle-y story here. That Noel is really more of her confidant, where he's the first person who finds out she's engaged. He's the first person who finds out she may be not staying in New York. And I don't know, like, Emily, were you surprised that we didn't get more of the like, will they, won't they sort of a triangle thing here?
100%. So I'm thinking about what the message of season 4 is, especially for Felicity, Ben, and Noel, where Noel has at times seemed like he would like to be with Felicity, right? And Felicity in season 4 has never really returned that. But this episode made it seem almost fully platonic until toward the end. And I know we're not there yet, but Felicity does ask Noel later, do you ever think about what the future could have looked like if ... And I guess we can talk about what she was thinking there. I read that as if you and me, and I think she said you and me, if you and me had gotten together, stayed together. And the first time I watched this episode, Noel says never. And I really didn't think much of it. But the second time I watched, it felt like a very loaded never, where he's smiling at her just kind of with this really knowing full smile. And I think the feelings for him are not over, but he has come to a place where he is accepting their relationship, and that while that might hurt, he is accepting of it. And I am really surprised that there really wasn't more to Felicity giving this more thought. She's really been on the Ben train the whole time. So yeah, that's, I think, kind of what's one of the disappointing things about season 4. Not that I needed it to be love triangle-y the whole season, but it's just, I'm so confused. What was Noel doing here this whole time then, right? He was just a foil for Ben a couple of times.
Yeah.
He was just bringing in a little bit of drama at the beginning of the season when he and Felicity do sleep together. Like, it's so strange.
It felt like we wasted a lot of time on Noel's feelings for Felicity, being that like it really didn't amount to anything besides kind of like them going back to their friendship, right? And like, again, I wish we could have had, if we could have done more with like the will they, won't they, or like, is there a chance for Felicity and Noel? We could have left these like life changing conversations for like a character like Meghan or a character like Elena, right? Like we could have given other characters opportunities to have Felicity confide in them. Instead, all of it is Noel. Noel is the one she tells she's engaged to Ben. Noel is the one who gets her the architecture book, New York architecture book for graduation, and she tells him, I might not be here next year. And so it just feels like we wasted a lot of the storyline on Noel when we could have given it to a character that really felt sidelined, like Meghan or Elena. And I think she's also, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, the first person who she tells she's not staying in New York. She's not coming back in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I find it pretty interesting, actually, because obviously as like a team Noeler, I thought that it was going to be more of a toss-up, but the story ultimately is the Ben and Felicity story, which I suppose it makes sense. I mean, that's where we started, so that's where we're going to end. I totally agree with Emily. Like, I think that there are some feelings, but I think that he has realized that like he is not the person for Felicity, and that he has to like get over it. Like, he has to like move on. And I like, I'm thinking like this season specifically, like there were a lot of opportunities where he was trying to help Felicity and Ben, like, especially like later on, like there was like times where he was like, you know, you should forgive him or her. I just know that there was like more than one occasion where he was trying to like get them together, or like saying like, oh, like you shouldn't feel this way, or you should forgive. So I was trying to be like, I mean, like I was coming into him being like, is there a world where I misread it the entire time and like he actually didn't have feelings for Felicity? I think that he did. I do, but I think that he was like, she just is not that into me, so I have to get over it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it was just very strange. And staying on Noel for a second, we might as well get through the Sean and Noel stuff here. This was dumb. They basically have Sean suck at his job for the majority of the season, only for then him to like overnight, I guess it's a few months because we're jumping in time again, like become better at his job only to get fired because of layoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember that this was post 9/11, and especially in New York City, there was a lot of people to get laid off from their jobs, and the economy was like really blowy. So I'm actually not that surprised that I think it's realistic that there was layoffs. I think that there was a lot of businesses that were like really fucked after 9/11. Was this 2002? So maybe like
it's not so much that he got laid off. It's because that felt normal and realistic to me. Layoffs happen. It was more so that like they really gave him this like redemption arc of suddenly he's very good at his job only to get laid off, which I guess, Emily, they had to do that because in order for then Sean and Noel to then start their own business, well, Noel wouldn't want to start a business with him if he was shitty at his job.
Well, let me tell you what makes me mad about this storyline. Why are we spending so much time with Sean and Noel and not with Elena or Meghan?
Yeah.
Where are they? Why can we not be seeing more from them? Instead, kind of like how Felicity's dad views Felicity only as with Ben and not having any other life outside Ben. That is what the whole season is telling us. I mean, we see almost nothing between Felicity and Meghan or Felicity and Elena. And that is just such, in my opinion, that's why season 4 is going to end up ranking so low, is we have these wonderful characters that could have had such strong relationships with Felicity, and they have in previous seasons, and we've just thrown them out in this season. Meghan is only around with Sean, and so that we can view and observe their marital problems, and Elena just isn't around at all. And that makes me way more angry. I don't know why we're focusing on Sean and Noel. I guess we're not seeing Sean fight with Meghan, so I guess that's good. But I just don't understand the choices that were made to invest this much time into that storyline in the finale here.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't make a lot of sense either, especially like I really don't think that they treated the character of Elena well in the entire 4 seasons, and I think that that's like part of my main issue with the character of Elena, where I was just like, I just don't get enough for her. I don't like everything is surrounded around like a guy. Like I did like her with like Tracy, but so like I truly, and especially being like the only character besides Javier of color, I feel like they mistreated Elena. And funnily enough, like I was like, what's up with like Tangi Miller anyway? And I was like, I went on to her Instagram and I like scrolled. I was like scrolling for a while, no reference of Felicity. So I wonder like if she has any like harboring any feelings about her experience as well, because they underutilized her, and I feel like they mistreated the character of Elena because they really didn't. I mean, like they set up that whole thing with like Ben's buddy Trevor, that wasn't complete. Like I kind of just feel like we continued to get nothing. So and then so that's one thing, but like for Meghan, who is like a day oneer, who we saw her do a massive transformation throughout the years, not only with her style, but also like she was like horribly mean and scary season 1. Like, but the amazing thing is that we got to learn like who she is underneath that armor, and like in a way I don't even know if we totally understand like why she was that. Well, because her parents were such normies, but like like I feel as though like they really did a good job for 3 seasons building up her character to get her with Sean, who kind of destroys her in a way. Because,
or at least, the very least, destroys her storyline. Like, truly,
because,
what the hell?
Yeah, because like then her whole storyline no longer becomes. It's so bad because the greatest thing about Meghan is that she's an individual, and then to lose her individuality in a man is probably one of the biggest injustices of this show.
Yeah, it's infuriating to me that of this 40 however minute episode of Felicity that is the series finale, we get a total of maybe 3 minutes with the characters of Meghan and Elena total. That's together. Yep. And both of them are also, it's not even just one-on-one. They're both sharing their time. Meghan with Sean and Elena with Javier. And it is so infuriating that we get almost nothing from them. Like, the Felicity Meghan goodbye is cute, but like, I wish we got a more in-depth conversation with them. I wish she had been the one that Felicity had confided in, because let's face it, Meghan is the most no bullshit character. Like, she tells it like it is, and she would have said, like, you're being ridiculous, or, you know, whatever, right? You're being ridiculous for all these reasons. And then the Elena thing is like shoved in last minute with Javier. I feel like the employee of the month thing, while very cute, and I'm not going to complain about that thing in particular, that could have been one-on-one with her and Javier. Why was Meghan, or why was Elena there for that? Like, it was just very frustrating to see all these other characters get so much more screen time when those two characters have been with us since the start, and in my opinion are much more important to the character of Felicity, whose name is the show. Like, it was very, very, very frustrating that this whole episode, this whole finale, the series finale, felt like the Felicity and Ben show with like a side helping of Nolan Sean. Like, I'm sorry, but where's the rest of my meal? Like, where are the rest of these characters that I really like? I totally agree with you, Sarah. Like, Elena has been given nothing to do this whole season, and Meghan has only been given scenes with Sean where she's basically just fighting with him. So, like, to me, that's why I was so frustrated, Emily, when, oh, it's okay now, you know, oh, Meghan wants to be a psychiatrist and all this other stuff. And it's like, well, why haven't we explored any of that? Like, truly.
That would make such good TV. Let us see Meghan learning about psychiatry, perhaps trying to diagnose her friends. That would be super fun. But no, it's just, oh, Meghan's gonna probably become a psychiatrist and I'll be her first patient. And it's just like, no, why weren't we seeing that? The side characters, Felicity's friends, should have had so much more of a spotlight, not just in the finale, but throughout the whole season.
Yeah. And so Felicity and Ben have some goodbye sex after she decides like she's not coming back or not going to Arizona with him. And then we like flash forward after Felicity does the Felicity was here on her wall in her dorm, whatever, who cares? She's in Palo Alto. It's 6 months later, and she has decided, okay, I'm trying to like not get so mad.
So the funny thing is that I don't think, I mean, this is like literally what I was like, I'm not mad. This is what literally made me the most mad.
This sent me over the edge, okay? Yeah. Okay? I was watching this finale and I was like, this is ho-hum, this is humdrum, this is like boring, whatever series finale. It's not like insanely offensive if we ignore the fact that Elena and Meghan have barely been around. Yeah. Like, it's whatever is how I felt about it, up until they had the audacity to be like, Felicity's gonna be a doctor. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Why? I decided to be a doctor anyway. Why? Why? What like that? Why did we spend 4 seasons of her trying to depart herself from that?
That's so mad. I was so mad.
Why? I truly don't understand why they would walk that back so much. Like, yeah. I can't even like I can't even.
That's the thing. You can't even. My reaction to watching this for the first time, because I watched it twice now, was a fucking doctor. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, Emily, why have we spent 4 seasons being like, do what you love, explore your passion? Like, what? And she's not even like a. Because in my head, I'm like, well, maybe she's going to do the like 51st Dates thing of like combining like art and therapy or something, right? Like art therapy.
Maybe she's going to forget everything.
She's going to bonk her head and forget.
I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, maybe I need that too.
Like art therapy. I wish I had that. Forget this finale. Like art therapy to like combine being a doctor and art, right? Like maybe there's something there, but no, she's just going to be a doctor. And she's decided to go to med school in freaking Palo Alto.
So if you had asked me, what is the worst possible ending you could think for Felicity, I would have said she moves back home to be with one of her parents or nearby to them,
Yeah.
and that she decides to become a doctor.
Yeah.
Because
and then tack on the Ben showing up at the end, and then you've got the trifecta of shitty end.
Yep, and Ben follows her back. Yeah, so it's what has Felicity learned over college? Has she learned anything? And I think there is a good argument that she has not. She clearly is just influenced by the people around her and cannot stand by her own decisions, will not follow her passions, but she's allowing, her mom and dad back into her life, which, her mom seems to generally be okay. Like, it's not wonderful, but it's not toxic. But, her dad, can you imagine how thrilled he was that she's going to be a doctor? So maybe he's the real winner of the entire series.
Yes!
What are we to learn from this? So I guess I'm learning that parents like to control their children and want them to move back after college so that they can continue being their children and not their own individual adults. At least if we're looking at it through her dad's lens. Here's the other thing. I have always been Team Noel, because ever since I binged the first 16 episodes of the first season in order to catch up to the podcast, I have said this cannot end with her with Ben, because if it does, then what have we learned here? What are we doing here? Stalking is okay. Stalking will get you what you want. And guess what? That is what we're learning. That is the moral of the story. Just stalk the person that you have a crush on to college, and then you tell them they have to stalk you back because it's their turn. So you just go back home, become the child that you were before you left for college, and hopefully the person that you stalked has enough Stockholm syndrome that they will just follow you right back.
Can you imagine being Lauren? Okay, you just gave birth, you had a baby. The guy who didn't want anything to do with you at first has been like, now I want to be in the baby's life. And you're like, okay, great. I'm glad you've come around. I'm glad you want to be a father. I'm going to live in Arizona because that's where my family is. They're going to help me. Let's move there. 6 months down the line, your baby daddy turns to you and is like, do you know that girl that I like kind of sort of dated in college that I proposed to for like a split second, and then we didn't end up, getting married, and also the one that stalked me just a little bit. I would like to move back to my hometown to be with her. I haven't told her yet, so it's possible that she's with someone else, but I really want to do that, and I think you should give up your family and your comfortability in Arizona and come with me to California so that I can do this. And also bring that baby with you, please. Fuck all the way off, Ben. What are you talking about? What kind of crazy? Because it's my turn.
I mean,
I thought I couldn't be more mad when she became a doctor, Sarah. I thought I couldn't be more mad, and then fucking Ben showed up, and I was so mad.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. Like, I'm such a sap. Like, I really am romantic. Like, I'm a Pisces Venus. Like, I did like how, off the record, of course, I'm Team Noel forever.
Legally, you didn't like it, but
I did like the Ben ending of him coming to Felicity. Like, let's remove like the Lauren and the baby stuff. Like, then I start getting a little clouded. But like, if I forget all of that,
the biggest aspect of what's going on in his life.
If I remove all of that, I think it's really cute and romantic how, like, he's like, he comes and surprises her, decides to do med school, decides to do med school, and essentially with her in Palo Alto. And I like the name because I love a Fran Drescher. I like him like showing up, surprising her, and being like, it's my turn. Like, those kind of sound bites. It's the equivalent almost to like, I remember everything, which like didn't work for me because it felt a little creepy and he whispered it. But that's a Dawson's Creek reference. But like, I did like it. However, like, once I think like, yeah, we really like ran it back. Like, we really were like, we're not going to learn any lessons. We're not going to progress our character. We're not going to grow. Like, college, and I thought this was the point of the show. College is supposed to be the most transformative part of your life because it's when you leave your home and ultimately go to become like your own person and become an adult, become an individual, get your own thoughts. And for her to like kind of just fall into everything that her father wanted and expected from her is pretty fucking crazy.
It's insane. We've learned nothing. And it is infuriating. Again, if it was like, yeah, she still calls Meghan and Elena and whatever, but like, they got almost nothing in the finale. So it's not even about the friends we made along the way. Like, it's truly, we have had no growth. I feel like Felicity was so much better as a character in like seasons like 2 or 3 or whichever one I really liked her in. I think it was 2. She had her peak. And now she's like a fucking bell curve where now she's back where she started. And like, what are we actually, again, I'm team Ben legally. Legally, I'm team Ben. And so I was very happy to see them together. But logically, I'm like, this makes no fucking sense. Like, you can't just drag your baby mama and your baby to a different state because you're like, want to be with this girl that stalked you. Like, make it make sense.
While you're going through medical school and may not even be able to get through that, right?
Yeah, and transferring credits, like how many schools have you gone to now? Like, that's going to be such a headache. It's going to take you freaking 10 years to get through med school at this point.
I think we could have taken one of these things.
Yes.
But for it to be all 3, she ends up back in California with her parents. She ends up becoming a doctor or, you know, going down that path. And she ends up with Ben, her high school crush. We could have done with one of those things. But for it to be all 3, she's lost all of her individuality and any growth that she's had throughout the last 4 years.
Yeah. It's infuriating.
And then to top it all off, the reason why we get 5 more episodes is not because all of this is bullshit. It's because the network needed to fill time.
Yeah.
Which is also crazy. Like, when you think that, like, I assumed, like, oh, there was going to be some sort of uproar. Like, the people were, like, on the, I don't know, on the Tumblr streets. It wasn't Tumblr at that time. Just, like, one of those little Reddit adjacent things, like making, like, complaining. No, they were just like, you know, like, we need to fill more time. You know, it's pretty crazy. I mean, like, the whole thing's like pretty nuts. I felt like it was a fine finale. Like, I think that if it did end here, like, I think we would have had the same conversation of like, this is a bunch of bullshit. But I would have been like, yeah, like, fine. Like, I guess the moral of the story that is that it's the Ben and Felicity show. Like, maybe I was wrong all those seasons that there was a love triangle. Maybe I was blind. I don't know. But yeah, it just felt like, I mean, there's a lot of like bullshit that happened in this episode. And it was just like, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think this is the point where we should make, before we get into any feedback we have, I think we should make some predictions as to like, okay, well, how will they fill out the remainder of these seasons? The remainder of these episodes. Because I strongly feel like the only way they make this work is by giving us another time jump. Like, I feel like we have to jump through time again. So that is like my first prediction. I think it will be multiple years into the future. In fact, I think we may even be looking at a point where they're done with med school, where Felicity is a full-fledged doctor. And I think what they're going to do is, going back to our good pal Dawson's Creek, I think one of these characters is going to be terminally ill, and that the reason they're going to end up getting back to, like, all coming back together is because someone is ill. Because you know how it is, we get together for weddings and funerals, baby. So I think it's going to be terminally ill situation. I think it's going to be an ironic sort of a thing where Elena, the doctor, is going to be terminally ill. And I think that it's going to be like, okay, Felicity and Ben come together as doctors to save her life. Like, it's going to be something so stupid.
I can't. No.
But
no,
like,
I
you
agree
can
with
see
you.
it
I agree with
happening.
you because it's just like the Jen thing. Like where
That's what
Jen
I'm
was like,
saying.
I was like, we don't know what to do with Jen. Like Jen doesn't have like any good storylines. We've been treating Jen like shit for all these seasons. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna give Jen is dying storyline.
Yep, we're
Like
gonna give it to Elena.
Yeah, I could totally see that, which I don't like it at all.
And maybe Emily, this is so my brain. I'm like, how stupid are they going to make it? Maybe what happens is Ben is whatever sort of like let's pretend it's cancer. He's an oncologist, right? Like he's whatever sort of a doctor she will need, but he's unable to save her. And therefore Felicity's like, I can't even look at you anymore. And then she gets together with Noel and they have a happy ending.
Why? Wait, why?
I don't know, because it's dumb. What do you mean why?
So do you think you think that like she's ultimately just gonna end up with Noel?
I think at the very least in these 5 episodes, we are going to get the question of who she's going to pick, even if she goes with no one. I do think the Noel thing is not done. Because I think if people had a complaint about the finale, it was more Noel. What about Noel and Felicity? So I feel like they'll incorporate that into these last 5 episodes.
You know, I've never seen Breaking Dawn Part 2. And I was
the Twilight one? Is that a Twilight?
I was okay with that because like I was just like, I just don't need to see it. Like I don't need to.
Sorry, for the uninitiated, which one is that? Is that the second part of the third one, the final one?
Part or the fourth one?
There's 4?
The very last movie.
Okay,
yeah.
The very last movie. Thank you. That's all I needed
very,
to know.
very last movie. Like
that's not the one with Renesmee. Renesmee.
No, it is. It is.
Oh, you've never seen the terrible nightmare fuel that is Renesmee.
Yeah. So my point is that like I've lived my life like reading all the books and watching all the movies except for the final movie. I've never seen it, and I'm okay with it. Like I live my life day to day being okay with it. I'm like saying right here, right now, like maybe I don't need to see the last 5 episodes of Felicity is my point in all of this.
Yeah, you're at the my life is fine portion.
My life is fine without it.
Yeah. What do you think, Emily? What do you think of these predictions that I have?
Well, so it's really interesting because I do think you're right about Noel, where there is an opportunity here to do something with these last 5 episodes and not to like, totally give in to audience wants, because whenever you do that just for the audience, that usually doesn't turn out well. However, because it was so bad where Felicity is just not a character anymore, I do think the thing that makes the most sense to me is that she would revisit the Noel situation, even if she's not like at all on board, but that Noel would maybe find an opportunity to express his feelings for her and what she's meant to him. And if he does that, my guess is that she still picks Ben, sadly. The idea that Elena might be terminally ill is super sad. But when you were talking about people, I was thinking maybe it would be Meghan, if it's going to be someone. I'm kind of hoping that maybe it's a happier route. I'm really hoping it's not the Ben and Felicity wedding. But what I think could be, what could be better might be like maybe Sean and Meghan are having a child together, and we're going back for a baby shower, or it's around time of giving birth and they want to meet the new baby. Maybe it's something like that, which would be ending on a much more hopeful note. And I think generally Felicity does tend to want to give you that happy ending, so I think it would be a real turn for it to be kind of like this terminally ill storyline, even if like Ben has these connections and can get her into like a trial. That could be another route where he is, or Felicity has the connections to do that. But it'll be interesting to see if the writers like rethought any of the ending, because I don't know how anyone's sitting in that writing room saying that these are good ideas.
Yeah, I got it. It's
sure.
Sadly Mommy's funeral.
No, not Mommy!
And everybody is required to come to Mommy's funeral, and it's the most dramatic, like beautifully decorated, like extravagant funeral that ever existed. And I would be so heartbroken. I think that there's a world where we see Ruby again. I think that there's a world where we see Tracy again.
Okay. Interesting.
I think that I think that like because like correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that some of the original writers did come back for the last 5.
Maybe you could be right. I have no
maybe
idea.
somebody said that somewhere, or maybe
It's
I'm
possible,
just being hopeful. So I'm maybe hoping that they're like more tolerable. But also we feel like this season we really lost like a lot of people's core character, but maybe like we'll see more of some of the people that we really came to love in the last 5. Hopeful once again. Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm falling. Like I'm pretty nervous, and I'm like, I feel like I am coming into this as a unwilling participant, but I gotta keep going. Just like yesterday at the 1 hour and 40-minute mark of my bike ride, I just have to keep going.
It's a long bike ride.
That is really long.
Adam is a biker through and through. He loves to bike.
Bike seats are just if I could get a bike seat that was comfortable for my tush, like maybe. But when you have like a wider butt, like it is uncomfy.
I was in pain. In pain. Adam could bike ride 8 hours a day, but we did a 2-hour bike ride yesterday.
That's a lot.
And I wanted to die.
Did you put Belle in a little basket in the front?
No, Belle's not invited.
Oh, that would have been really cute though, you have to admit. Her in a little basket. Okay, let's get into some feedback that we got. Very, very curious to hear what our friends have to say. So let's hear what DBK has to say about the fake finale.
What up, though, ladies? The Graduate. We're here, season finale, the whoopsie doopsie as you guys called it, but it's not the whoopsie doopsie finale. It's the real finale. I think in Felicity lore, this is the finale.
This is the finale. Okay.
Like the one they were prepared for. The whoopsie doopsie finale is coming up, I would say. But what do you guys think? I mean, I think it's a pretty decent finale considering how bad this season was. They tie up like the little, I guess, loose ends that they had going on. And then so what did you think? It was almost Felicity ended up with herself, but it was Ben's turn to follow. Do we like it? Do we not like it?
Dumb.
I know we're Team Noel and we want it, but are you guys happy that Felicity and Ben end up together? We get Blumberg and Crane is off to the races. Ugh. Meghan's going to be a psychiatrist, and, Elena is off to be a doctor, and Javier's still at Dean and DeLuca, I guess. Yeah, that's it. I can't wait it sucks that you guys were spoiled on the double finales. I mean, it would be hilarious to actually have your guys' reactions of like, what the heck is going on with 6 more episodes coming, and we just had like a season finale. But, buckle up, ladies. You have no idea what you're in store for.
God.
Yeah. Until next week. Peace.
I feel like we're really in for a rude awakening next week because so many people were like, oh, it sucks that you knew that it was like a fake finale or whatever. Like, I feel like we're going to get some real chicanery next week with people's
gird your loins is basically what everyone's telling us.
Yeah.
Everyone
so maybe hold on to your pants.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That feedback did remind me of what I was thinking when I was watching the finale, especially the last 5 minutes, where it reminds me of another movie/musical/story that has an ending that I despise, which is Grease.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the movie, the John Travolta. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Well, and I know Grease is a parody, but I have seen Grease knowing that it's a parody and still hated it, where the 2 leads change for each other,
Yeah.
They change for each other to make each other, or to be what their partner wants them to be, and then they can be together and be happy as newly changed people. And I hate that ending. I hated this ending. Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Sandy in the leather outfit is so hot though. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear you should not change yourself
Sandra D
to accommodate somebody else.
Yeah.
And this really is the story of not changing as well.
Yeah, we ended up where we started. In Palo Alto being a stalker. Okay, let's hear what Temmie has to say about, I guess this is the real finale. I should stop calling it the fake finale. This is the real finale, and the next one is the fake finale.
Hi, ladies. Felicity and Andy should have been investigated for expulsion.
Oh.
I have 20 questions. 3 questions spaced out. Can you remember characters changing elements of their life like Meghan in the course of a show or movie? She still has her witchy, sarcastic inclinations, but rarely. I thought of Rose from Titanic renouncing wealth and her previous aristocratic life to be with Jack. Or Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator 1 to the second movie, going from antagonistic opponent to weaker protagonist. All 3 are James Cameron movies. 2 more questions. What was the planning of your lives at the time of graduation from college like?
Jeez.
How did things go in the first year after college and compare to what you expected from the time of graduation? Thanks. Bye.
Interesting questions as always, Temmie. Gosh, when I graduated college, my story's a little strange in that I graduated early. So I graduated in December, which is strange. Most people graduate in like May or something from college. And I was substitute teaching because I wanted to, that was what I was doing to fill my time in between that and starting a master's program. This was also, if you'll remember way back in the day, to 2012. It was like the worst time to be a teacher in our country, at least at that point. There were no jobs, there were layoffs. And so everyone that was getting the calls were actual like certified teachers were getting all the substitute calls, and I wasn't. So I was the most depressed I've been, except for 2020. That's a whole different thing. And so I was really depressed, and my goal at that point was to actually be a teacher. My life very much changed in like, I'd say my life changed the most drastically in that year that I graduated college. And then again, like 5 years later, I think were like my 2 most drastic changes in terms of like the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So yeah, my life is very different than what I imagined it would be when I was 21-ish. Sarah, what about you?
I also graduated in 2012, but the spring of 2012, because I transferred schools and majors, so it tacked on a 5th year. I had a really hard time, honestly, transitioning from being a college student to being an adult in the real world. Like, I know that there's so many people that have jobs lined up when they graduate. I just like wasn't there mentally, honestly. Like I took that summer and I was just like, I'm on summer break. Like I have been for the last like 18 years of my life. So I was really unmotivated to find a job during that summer. I spent like the summer watching Big Brother. I remember I had just gotten Belle, so spending time with my dog, and watching YouTube videos on how to apply makeup. I was really fucking around, and it was really hard because I just like the last place in my mind was to find a full-time job. And the job market itself was like really shitty as well because we were in a recession at the time. And when we graduated school, we were told, oh, you should expect salaries that are X. And my friends that were getting jobs were accepting salaries that were $20,000 less. So much so that like I had a friend that like got a job at an architecture firm, but decided to leave because she was making more money as a receptionist at a hair salon. So like that was kind of like my reality. So ultimately, through pressure, through myself, but also like comparing myself with peers and my like family, I ultimately decided to accept a unpaid internship in New York City, where I worked for almost a year. They like gave me a stipend to like get my ticket, and they bought me lunch, but yeah, unpaid internship. And it was really hard. It was like really, really hard. I remember like when the following spring was coming around, so it had been a year since I graduated, the amount of pressure that I felt of like the graduates from the year behind me were going to start competing for the same jobs that I was about to compete for. I remember having like a real panic. All of that to say is that like, yeah, like it worked out. I'm still in the same field that I graduated in. I'm still in interior design and design in general, but it certainly was not. I mean, I can only imagine if I had graduated at a different time in my life and if I was in a different mindset, how further along in my career I could be. But I mean, that all of that to say is that I've been with my company for 8 years and I'm like very comfortable. I'm pretty happy. So, yeah, that was mine. Emily, what year did you graduate?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2010 with a music education degree. But I graduated knowing that I didn't want to be a music teacher. Also, I decided to come back home, so I wasn't even certified to teach in the state where my home was. But like you said, Sarah, those months and year, maybe even more than a year following graduating was so hard. And it was like probably the most depressing time in my life as well, and Jess said that too, where I did not feel emotionally prepared, where I had just spent 4 years making extremely close friendships, and then we all went our separate ways. None of us lived close together. So you lose that to a certain extent. I had really become an individual, but then was moving back into my childhood home with my parents.
I
And
did
that
as well.
Yep. And that was really hard with the power dynamic of, my parents don't know how to treat me as an adult, especially when you move back home into your childhood bedroom. There are these different expectations. And so I went out and found jobs related to, what I had studied, but not quite the same, and ended up in libraries and getting my master of library and information science. But one thing that I still remember is when I was making that decision to get my master's degree for library science, my dad had said to me, I wish you had asked me or like consulted me for my opinion. And it's like, but I'm like, at the time I was like 24 years old or maybe 23. And it's like, yeah, but if I know I'm going to do it and I'm capable of doing it, like, I mean, I don't want to be asking your permission, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
maybe I could have like let you know, I guess, but it was like, I'm not a child and you still expect me to be acting as a child here. So my advice would be for anybody who is privileged enough when you graduate college, if you're able to get your own place or roommates or something to do that, because for me, at least in my experience, it was really hard to go back home and then to not be a child, but your parents still view you that way. That was really tough.
I had the same exact experience because I moved back home either in the power dynamic and the regression that I had as a individual. It was pretty damaging. Like it really like kicked me. I always said that I always felt like I was like 5 years behind my peers. And I think like a part of that was, moving back home, feeling like a child again or like a teenager. I was having the same fights that I was having with my sister and my mom before school. I moved back to my home where when I left for school, my dad was still alive and living there. I came back to the same home and my dad was no longer there. I always say this, but I don't think that people give people in their 20s enough credit for how hard life is after like in your your entire 20s, honestly, for different reasons. I think that 20s is extremely hard. Everybody is kind of like just trying to figure out their life. And even like your friendships are like nobody has time to be like a true support in your 20s because everyone's just trying to figure out their own life. What am I going to do for a career? Who am I going to be with? Where am I going to live? What am I going to do? It's really, really hard. And like, I get so frustrated when like fucking boomers or whomever are like, yeah, like Gen Z, or I guess now Gen Alpha, they're a bunch of like lazy people. They don't do this. They don't get jobs. They have no this, that, or the other thing. I was like, well, you're not thinking about how hard it is to be a person in your 20s trying to navigate life. And I feel for somebody like a Felicity who didn't have like that much, had a hard time like navigating your last year's school, because like, especially for me or Emily, who had a really great college experience. Sorry, Jess, I know that like you barely spent any time in college, but like enjoying yourself. But like we had like a great experience. We had like really good friends. Like we like built our like own life for like maybe the first time ever, away from like family, and to go right back into it. And like maybe that's why Emily and I are so sad for Felicity to go back to Palo Alto, because like we know what it's like to move back into your childhood home and just feel like shit. I'm living in like the thought of like sleeping in the same bed in my childhood home, which I did. I mean, like it's pretty fucked. It's pretty fucked.
Yeah. Okay, so we do have one more piece of feedback from Jamie, who argues this shouldn't be the fake finale because this is the real finale. So we'll call the next finale the fake finale.
I cannot believe that the next finale is going to be even worse.
We'll see.
Why am I getting punished?
Jamie says, overall, I think this episode was a great way to end the series. However, it would have been much more powerful had the season been set up better for it and not wasted time on stupid episodes like the paper chase. Was that whole story even necessary? Also, does Lauren just get off for drunk driving while pregnant and injuring Ben? They should have just cut the paper chase episode out, put Ben Don't Leave in its place, and used episode 16 for the fallout of the accident and better set up Ben wanting to propose. But ultimately, I love that the finale wasn't so much about Felicity choosing a boy, but the boy choosing her. I haven't been happy with Ben since season 3, but him showing up in Palo Alto reminded me why I had been Team Ben prior to the Avery fiasco. It was the ultimate Fran Drescher. She says grand gesture, but I'm translating. I'm not looking forward to the last 5 episodes. This was a perfect way to end the show. I knew they were just going to fuck it up. Yeah. And the other thing, Jamie was bothered by Felicity's dad saying, isn't 4 years of following Ben Covington enough? And her telling Ben, I've been following you for 4 years, because I do not believe that to be completely true. In the season 2 episode called The Slump, when she started seeing Dr. Pavone, they basically debunked the idea that she came to New York just to follow Ben, and was also, as she was also escaping the role she was forced to play in her family. I wish Felicity would have stood up for herself more to her father and told him that. And her existence these past 4 years has also been so much more than just Ben. She's dated other people, dealt with personal and career stuff, ran for student government, successfully led a sit-in the morning after pill to be provided for students in the health center. Her father and Felicity herself are doing an injustice to her journey. While I'm glad Felicity decided not to go with Ben to Arizona, if she had, I don't see that as her following him. Ben proposed marriage to her. He is willing to make the ultimate commitment with her. They would be going together as partners to build a life together. I think this season has really proved Ben's love and devotion towards Felicity. He forgave her for cheating, and isn't bothered by the fact that she's so close friends with Noel. If anything, I would say now Felicity has more of the upper hand in the relationship. If it wasn't for baby Andrew, I do believe Ben would follow Felicity to wherever she had wanted to go, as long as there being consistent on there being a middle school for him. And Jamie also hates they had Felicity go back to medicine. I'm fine with her moving on from art. I just wish she had discovered something on her own for herself. Yeah. Now she's pretty much back on track. Her father set her up when she graduated high school.
Okay, so here we go. I got it.
Okay.
I think it would be a lot more digestible if Felicity really did go forward with architecture. I think even though it's a really sucky career, I think it's a reputable career that would have like made her dad shut the fuck up. And I think that she stays in New York because she loves New York, or she tries a different city where nobody else is at. And then he comes and is like, I surprised you. It's my turn to follow you. And also, we're going to try this new city like Chicago together or Boston or something. So then they like start fresh in a new city, something like we just need tweaks. I think like we would feel a lot differently about it if we just like, she doesn't go back to medicine because it gets so murky with like her dad and the fact that like she spent like 3 years being like, I don't want to do medicine. I think like, her sticking with architecture makes sense enough. It's art adjacent, it's logic adjacent. I think it makes a lot of sense. I really liked him coming to her. But also, what about the baby? Oh, and the baby thing doesn't happen. None of that happened.
Yeah. I mean, Emily, I'd be satisfied with like erasing 90% of what happened in season 4.
It was such a bad season. And honestly,
really
I think when I think about season 4, all I'm going to think about is Ben, Felicity, and the baby.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I will really be able to recall anything else that happens. Yeah, so I agree. I think if we could have kept at least one aspect of Felicity's identity as herself, then the other stuff would have gone down much easier. And she doesn't give a reason for wanting to be a doctor. We have not seen evidence along the way that she's having these thoughts that, you know what, maybe I do actually want to become a doctor. Even after Ben says he wants to become a doctor, she's not thinking of that for herself. Yeah. And so I just looked at what she was saying in her verbal note to Ben, her tape recording. And she says, but now I know I'm not doing it for them, going into the medical field. I'm doing it for me because maybe I can make a difference. But you know what? There are a lot of careers where you can make a difference. Art makes a difference to people. Architecture is important. There are so many other potential jobs where you can make a difference, and it doesn't have to be that. I just wish that we had seen more seeds dropped along the way toward this, but instead she's becoming a doctor. Ben's becoming a doctor. They're going to be together with the baby. Yeah.
Like if we could have shifted the whole Avery storyline to Felicity in terms of, oh, I helped someone and then I realized I actually do want to be a doctor, or like, again, combine them, art therapy. It's literally right there. I assume art therapy existed back in the 90s, but she could have invented it. Who cares?
Medical drawing. I had said medical drawing in a long time.
There's
illustration.
Yeah. Yes. Jamie also had a few questions. Did anyone else think it was weird that Noel told Felicity not to go to Arizona after he had been supportive of their engagement? Do you think if Felicity had stayed in New York, Noel would have eventually tried to pursue something with her now that Ben would have been out of the picture in Arizona?
Probably. He's a dirty dog, but it's fine.
Definitely. He loves to put things where they don't belong. So I could see it happening. One last thing. While I do love the Meghan and Felicity friendship, I hate that they basically sacrificed their friendships with Elena and Javier for it. She didn't even mention Elena and Javier in her Dear Ben tape when she was giving an update on their friends.
Also, why was it a Dear Ben tape when we could have done a Dear Sally tape? What happened to Sally?
Sally is a ghost confirmed because we never met her. And that's it. She's a ghost.
Oh, God.
So stupid. So dumb. So annoying. Whatever. Sarah, are we giving out a point this episode to anyone?
No.
I didn't want to either. No one deserves it. None of you get it. None of you get it. Can I tell you what the next title of the episode will be?
Yeah.
Okay. Season 4, episode 18. Time Will Tell.
Yeah, it's a time jump, which is fine.
We are definitely time jumping. Yeah. Also, I think this could be Time Will Tell, terminally ill person. Like I do.
Why?
Because the show hates us.
But also,
That's
like,
the
how could they do that right after Dawson's Creek did that?
Okay, so let me see. So Felicity,
unless Dawson's Creek copied Felicity.
I'm just looking to see when it ended. Where I can't times. Okay, May 22nd, 2002. That's when Felicity ended. Dawson's Creek was May 14th, 2003. So Dawson's Creek would have been the one copying Felicity
awkward.
in that case. That's really awkward, especially because obviously Dawson's Creek is such a better show.
They learned from Felicity's mistakes.
Yes. They're like, we're going to do a time jump and we're going to do it better. We're still going to make someone terminally ill and kill them off, but we're going to do
that
it.
was just lazy
better.
writing.
That was terrible.
So if they do a time jump, does Ben have a kindergartner then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to deal with a little baby.
It's just going to be a case where like, oh, Lauren's watching the kid today and the kid's not even there because literally who cares? Maybe we get like a wallet photo of the kid because it's early aughts. People still have those. Do people still have wallet photos now? There's no way, right? There's no way people have wallet photos.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder if like school photos do. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's what we'll be discussing next week. And we will have a guest, our friend Todd the librarian. We're two back-to-back librarians. We love to see it. Will be on chatting with us. But yeah, anything else we missed? I feel like this has been largely very cathartic for me to just rant and rave for the past hour.
There's one more complaint about the ending.
Yes, please.
You got it.
It was that stupid Twinkle Twinkle song again.
Oh, yeah. The wait. This?
Twinkle Twinkle.
This one?
No, so it was not that one. It's this breathy lady voice doing Twinkle Twinkle. Little star. Terrible.
Oh no.
I had forgotten that song, but they have played that song, I think back in like season 1 and maybe season 2. And it just enrages me when I hear it. So the whole ending was set up over that song as well.
So funny.
I wonder if it's one of those like fake songs that they had to put in because apparently Felicity had really good music, but
right.
They
maybe that's
it. Maybe it was like a placeholder song and that's why it's so bad.
Yeah.
There were other good songs in the finale.
Yeah, it's just, oh God, I can't wait to see how bad it's going to be. Maybe I'll watch it after.
But is it bad because people were happy that she ended up with Ben and then they retcon it? Is that why people think it's bad?
I personally think they're going to say it's bad because of the decisions that they had the characters make within this time jump. I think that's why. And I also think if they kill off Elena or kill off anybody, really, I think also the fans will be mad. And I think because as much as this finale felt rushed, even though the whole season was slow, having to make 5 extra episodes, there's bound for it to be like fluff and unnecessary shit that then people are like, well, if we'd gotten the original finale, we wouldn't have to watch this, you know?
Or maybe it's just like bonkers weird. Like maybe it's just like 5 episodes of like the Twilight episode.
I can't wait to see Renesmee.
No. The Twilight Zone. The Twilight.
Oh,
black and white one.
Sarah, will you ever watch? Was it Breaking Dawn Part 2?
No.
Okay.
No. You should.
No.
It is actually good. It is like weird.
No.
I don't think I've seen all the Twilight movies. Yeah. I've definitely seen. I'm pretty sure I saw the second one in theaters, not having seen the first, but I have read the books. And I laughed in the theater and it greatly upset my best friend who was crying when I was laughing because it was so dumb. But I'm a jerk face. What can I say?
They are meant to be laughed at.
Thank you. I thought so too. I was ahead of the times, Emily. Definitely. I was ahead of the times. Anyway, so that's what we'll be covering next week. Emily, anything to plug? Anything you want people to read or watch or anything like that?
So I will have an upcoming appearance on One Indescribable podcast, which, our friends over there have been covering Everwood. So I will be on that a little bit later this month. So you can find me there. And then you can also find me in what was previously called the PSR Patron Discord. I hang out there.
Yeah. Question. Have you, Emily, this is your first time watching Everwood?
Yes.
Fascinating. Okay, I cannot wait to listen to your thoughts because it's a very strange show to watch as an adult. And so I can only imagine how strange it is to watch as an adult for the first time, never having seen it before.
Well, and like Felicity, I had a misconception of what it was. Whereas when I started Felicity, I thought it was a show about like witches or something. I don't know. It was like, you know,
That's incredible.
And then, you know, the first episode is a show about stalking. And then, you know, for Everwood, I thought it was going to be like much more of a, like a teen kind of drama. And it's really not. It's much more like of a family. Yeah. Like a family kind of show.
Wow. And I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on Everwood. Incredible. Yeah. Go check that out over on Whirlwind Podcasts. Sarah, anything you would like to plug?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. You're welcome. Check out everything else we have going on. shit90spod.com. We're still covering Buffy, the best season 4. So go check all of that out. And next week we'll be back with season 4, episode 18. Until then, everyone, have a good one. Bye.
Just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.